Hello, bonsoir, and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. I'm your host, Nathan Staples, and joining me this week are Eric Devin and Philippe Bargil. With 2 games of the season left to go, every game matters, and while some teams are dreaming of the European places for next year, some are beginning to hear that trapdoor open underneath them. But before any of that, here are your week's headlines. Ligue 1's 36th match day started on Friday evening, and Paris Saint-Germain wasted no time in rebounding from a middling performance in the Coupe de la Ligue final, thumping Rennes 4-0 behind a brace from Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the loss all but ending Rennes' hopes of a European place. Saturday's early match likewise saw a European contender's hopes dashed, as host Nantes defeated Nice thanks to a solitary goal from Adrien Thomasson. Les Aiglons now sitting 5 points behind Monaco and Lyon. The early evening match pitted in-form hosts Saint-Etienne against Toulouse at the Chaudron, while Les Verts stretched their streak of not conceding to 6 matches, they also failed to break down their opponents, a scoreless draw doing neither side much good. In the multiplex, a Diego Roland brace powered visiting Bordeaux past Troyes 4-2, while Bastille's trip to Caen ended in a scoreless draw. There were perhaps a bit more to play for in the other 3 matches in the multiplex, with European hopefuls and relegation strugglers taking on sides that may have little motivation. Lorient and Guingamp played their parts in allowing Monaco and Lille to keep pace with their fellow contenders, while Montpellier were not so charitable, La Payade winning 3-2 at Reims, courtesy of Riyad Boudibouza's 3 assists. Saturday's late match saw Lyon take on Gazélec Ajaccio, and Les Gaunes won 2-1 despite some jangling nerves, a result which keeps the team ahead of Monaco on goal difference. With a changed schedule, Sunday saw only 1 match scheduled, and a dire Marseille won on the road against Angers 1-0, with Lassana Diarra returning from injury as a second-half substitute. In Ligue 2, what had been a muddy picture in terms of the 3rd promotion place became much clearer this weekend, as Metz's defeat of Dijon, hauling them 3 points clear of Le Havre. A win in either of their next 2 matches will virtually guarantee a return to Ligue 1 for Les Greniers. In off-field news, Mamadou Sakho has been handed a 30-day suspension by UEFA in the wake of his drug test, a bit of news which puts his potential placement in the France squad in doubt. Injury-wise, Leo Sofiane Boufal's season is over due to a knee injury, a disappointing end to the youngster's first full season in the top flight. And that's all your news, but remember, for all the latest in the world of French football, head on over to our website at www.getfootballnewsfrance.com and follow us on Twitter at GFFN. Also, please support the show by subscribing to our YouTube channel, where it is streamed live every Monday evening, or get your fix through iTunes or on SoundCloud. We start this week with a place that no one wants to be, the relegation places. With time running out and other teams pulling away in recent games, it looks like it will be 2 from Toulouse, Reims and Gazélec Ajaccio. Philip, who stands the best chance of remaining in Ligue 1 next season?
When you look at the table, obviously the one who's 17th does stand the best chance, because it's in their own hands. I do believe that Marseille was going to play a huge part. Marseille are now safe, which is good news for the club and good news for French football. But Marseille are going to play at home to Reims on Saturday. So all the games now, there's only 2 games left, so all the games now will be on Saturday at 8 o'clock local time. For some reason, Marseille haven't won at home for 15 games, just 2 wins. I believe they've got the worst home record, obviously not counting Troyes. I think it really all depends on that one. I can see PSG beating Gazélec next week. Even though they are already champions, but we saw what they did to Rennes in the second half, and I think most of the players are our professionals will want to finish the season on an ultimate high. PSG are still in the race to finish with the most points total ever. So I believe Marseille is going to be the key there. Will they beat Reims? That will be a great boost for Toulouse if they do, because Toulouse are going to play at home to Troyes. But on the last match, they're going to Angers. So I'm still thinking Toulouse. I still wish. I know we're supposed to be impartial. I still wish Toulouse, because they're coming from deep down. When Ari Badji was a manager, I think all three of us agreed that they were going to go down, and they're staying with a chance. But for that to happen, they need to beat Troyes, which I think they will. Not to worry about that. But then it's that game at Angers. I still feel like it's really not an easy place to go to. Could be a draw, and the draw may not be enough. Maybe Gazellec will pull out some unbelievable surprise against PSG. Just I'm still going to go. I'm still going to go Toulouse, but it's more heart than head, if you will.
Eric, it's going to be a tough one for all three, really. With no game at this stage of the season is easy to predict. Who do you fancy staying up?
I like Gazellec. They've really impressed me the most. And they've had sort of an up and down season under Thierry Henry, but the fact of the matter is there's a lot of veteran players on this team. In the forward line, you look at the likes of Larbi, Pujol, Boutaïb. These are players who are experienced campaigners, are going to want another season in Ligue 1. Not only for their salaries, but for the prestige that brings, and the way they'll face adulation in this part of Corsica where football is very much an important part of the way of life. But not only the attackers, but the defense as well. Roderick Filippi's been really outstanding this season. He's great against Lyon. I was really impressed with him. Kader Manjan had been totally in the wilderness in Turkey after being an important part of Rennes' teams earlier in the decade. He seems to still have what it takes. He's had a good season, and they've had some issues with discipline and some bad luck. But for me, if they can get a point against PSG, they've got Lorient on the final match day. Lorient are sort of in free fall. They're in 16th. Have just not really been at the races after a good start to the season. I still got to favor Gazellec, just not only because of the position that they're already in, but I think that they've got the willpower and the drive to do that. The other teams, Toulouse, I agree with you, Philip. They've shown a lot of fight under Duprat. They really tested Ruffier on Saturday, but the fixtures are there again in their favor as well as compared to their two teams. But I think the deficit is just too much at this point. To make up 4 points and the goal difference with just 2 matches remaining means they're going to have to win both matches, and hopefully the other teams.
They do have the better goal difference, though. That's a huge advantage.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah,
I think that's a key point, because I do believe that it could be a case of 2 sides finishing on equal points, or even 3 sides finishing on equal amount of points, like 38 or something, 38, 39, which is quite high for the actually it's quite normal, but it's still in and around 40. And if this is the case, I mean, I don't see Toulouse actually losing any of their 2 remaining games. So it would mean something big to happen. But I think it'll come down to this kind of wire. It'll be to goal difference and maybe a goal. Like Toulouse may stay up thanks to minus 11 goal difference compared to a minus 30 and minus 14 from Gazellec or Reims.
Yeah, the thing I wanted to say is that if I had been asked this question before Saturday, I would have said Reims. Going or hosting Montpellier seemed like a decent match, but yeah. I just don't see where this club are at. The sacking of Guégan is just baffling. This new manager comes in, he totally changes the tactical system, goes back to a 4-man defense, but plays Mondi on the left of it. And I don't know if either of you watched the match, but just watching the extended highlights, I mean, Mondi, who's been a really reliable player for Reims over the last 4 seasons, has a shocker playing in a position that he's not used to. You could argue that Congré's goal and the winner were both his fault. He just really getting done. Sanson's goal, that is the last one. He starts Hugo Rodriguez, who's been nowhere this season in 2 consecutive matches. At the expense of other players who've been getting it done, like Antoine Deveau, for example. I just don't understand, this manager coming in. It just has this incredible ego to shake this up. I mean, again, Guégan, I wouldn't say he lost the dressing room. He fashioned some fine results, particularly at the beginning of the year. And now you've got Guillon coming in and trying to make a name for himself, and it's just really frustrating to see someone do this to try and advance their own career as a manager. If you keep running us up, great. But to think that you've got to have an entire shakeup at this point in the season, 3-4 matches to play, I think is just really a letdown. Because I think for me, Reims, based on the course of the season, the talent they have, should be the team staying up amongst these three. And I think that the club have really made a mistake in letting Guégan go.
I couldn't agree more, because I'm not quite sure what happened to see Reims in this precarious position, and I completely agree also with the fact that on paper, we're not going to play devil's advocate here, saying that had Reims kept Guégan, they would have beaten Montpellier. But this looked like a banker home win, and Montpellier, not going to say that their season is over, but all they wanted to do was not go down. They've achieved that. Well done to them. But it's you would have thought Reims would have been more up for it, and they weren't. And now they have to play Marseille and Lyon, which Marseille doesn't look such a daunting proposition now. But I cannot see them doing anything against Lyon, especially with this whole mess. Really, because it's like Eric said, it's a change of manager, change of philosophy, change of formation, change of personnel as well, putting round pegs in square holes. I haven't really touched upon that, but to me, Reims are down due to the fixture list. But again, it all depends on Marseille. But I don't think Reims would. I think they're gone. That's.
It's disappointing. They've got a lot of really good players.
I know. Like Dufour and Charbonnier, I thought he's pretty good. Diego is pretty good. Going forward, I mean, on the occasion I saw them, they were quite good at the back end going forward. So it is a real shame. And plus, when you know the areas, the Champagne area, you've got this club is really not. There's not much around it, and last season the chairman said, we have to save the Reims soldier. It has to stay in Ligue 1 because it's a historical club and all that. And now I think relegation has come almost a bit too fast for them, because they could see it coming last season, but this season they thought, okay, well, we're not mid-table, but we're not completely struggling either. And I think they thought they were safe by March, but then the results weren't coming in, and they've only got 36 points, and I can't really see them getting 40, unfortunately. I mean, it does pay me it would pay me also to see Reims go down.
Yeah, and it's looking at previous results and recent form for Stade de Reims. I'm seeing the manager's name. It's David Guillon who's come in. I don't understand what he's trying to do in the game against Montpellier. I mean, in the last 14 games, the team have only managed to not score on 4 occasions. And he completely changes the style of play and changes the players they're playing with. I mean, yes, Gaëtan Charbonnier and Nicolas de Préville are the starting 2 forwards, but they also have Bifuma usually with them. Adding Hugo Rodriguez to that made no sense. So he brings on someone like Gréjean Quillet, who will be better starting, who's been exciting when he's played. I know injuries have cost him reasonable parts of the season. But it wasn't going forward that the issue was. It was going back, and he takes out possibly his best defender, like you mentioned, Eric, in Asiamondi, and plays him at left back. And
the left of the 2 centre backs.
Yeah, and he does have a bit of a shocker, doesn't he? I don't understand what they tried to do, especially this is a game they needed to win, knowing the other games that were coming up. I mean, Marseille are in awful form, but let's be honest, you don't really want to be going to the Velodrome and wanting a win. and they've picked up plenty of draws there. So that's not an... And then the final day at Olympique Lyonnais, you don't want that either, because they're heading for Champions League football. It's not the ideal game to try and get a result. But talking back again about Toulouse, Eric, they've got a good set of games really against Angers and Troyes, but have they maybe left it a little bit too late?
I think so. If they had broken through against Saint-Etienne, and they threatened to, I think they looked fantastic.
They deserved to win, didn't they?
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think I would have put them in good stead, but again, 4 points to hope that both of their opponents, don't get don't get more than a point. It's just too much to ask. I feel that there's a win there, especially with guys like traveling to Lorient on that last match day of the season. I think that's what it's going to come down to. If guys like win that there, that forces Toulouse to win both of their last 2 matches, and I just don't see that happening, unfortunately.
No, and Gazalek, it would have been even more complicated situation if they managed to grab a point against Lyon when they were really in the ascendancy in the second half. I mean, the introduction of Pujol in that second half really transformed them and made them really dangerous. And Lyon sat on their laurels a little bit, I felt, and switched off a little, and it allowed Gazalek into it. And Philip,
yes,
it was a really good performance, and it might be a difficult thing to say, but should they go all guns blazing against PSG at the weekend? They've got nothing to lose in that one, surely.
Oh yes, definitely. I don't think it would make much difference, sadly. But I do believe that they have to give it everything. I'm not quite sure what the best tactic would be, because you've had a couple of these games last season where the team was defending quite well and going not too badly on the break, but PSG are now champions, and a draw is not the worst result in the world at Gazalek at this moment in time. And by that I mean because the title is already in the bag, and it would mean 90 points and so on. But yes, I do believe they should go all for it. But knowing the culture of this type of club, we'll be happy with anything, basically.
Well,
but I'm actually quite hopeful that they'll give it a good go. Hopefully.
It's a strange one as well, because like we've mentioned that Toulouse's goal difference is so good, and if they do get 2 wins, a point against Paris Saint-Germain might be gold dust to Ajaccio heading to Lorient in that final game, where Lorient seemed to have fallen off a wagon a little bit. But Eric, we've said that before that Reims are doomed last season, and we were made to eat our words. Is there any glimmer of hope in these last 2 games?
I really don't. Well, okay. If they I can see them beating Marseille, but the fact of the matter is, if Lyon fail to beat Monaco on Saturday, then Lyon will need to win on the following weekend, on the 14th, to clinch second. Because Monaco's result, if Monaco better their result, then Lyon will slip to third, etc., etc. And that's what worries me. So Reims have to play their hearts out, beat Marseille, and at the same time, have someone on the bench checking their phone, looking at the Lyon score, and hoping that Lyon can hold off Monaco and win that match. And then maybe they've got a chance. Then maybe Lyon will be essentially 4 points ahead of Monaco at that point, and be tempted to put their feet up a little bit on that last match. If that happens, then Reims do have the smallest of chances. But again, they're going to need Gazalek to stumble as well to have that happen. It's a lot of ifs and buts, and the bottom line is I still favor Gazalek in this run, and given that they're already in 17th and have a good opportunity against Lorient in the final match.
Well, that's a good point, because if Lyon do beat Monaco, they're basically second assured. So we'll go in the final game with nothing to play for, because they've already gained it. Because there's a vastly superior goal difference.
I will say one thing.
It is quite a big game.
I'll say one thing, especially for the neutral. I've just seen that if Toulouse win, Reims draw, and Gazalec lose at the weekend, they will all be on 37 points heading into that final match day.
And Toulouse will be 17th.
Yes, so that could really set up a cracking final day, which is exactly
to be
what
honest, I can see all those three results you just said. I can actually see those results happening. I can see PSG beating Gazalec. I can see the draw between Marseille and Reims because Marseille want to salvage what can be salvaged before a new owner comes in. And to me, Toulouse if they don't beat Troyes, they're basically down anyway. So I can actually see that happening, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that Saturday, like you've already mentioned, Eric, that 14th of May, God, that'll be a terrific afternoon if they're all on the same amount of points, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a nervy jangling set of nerves across France.
Yeah, and there's something we would love to see, but muddying those waters annoyingly slightly is that relegation fight is the fact that the news of SC Bastia may be relegated due to financial issues. The club made an agreement with the DNCG back in January about meeting certain budgetary targets and are in serious danger of missing them, with the club owing about 15 million euros to various different parties. The club have released a recent statement to quell those fears that they are in significant trouble. But Philip, how bad would it be if they are relegated because of those reasons?
It's a big if. First of all, I'd just like to point out a couple of things. I don't recall the DNCG, so basically the policeman of finance, of football finances, of Liga's finances, who is basically terrifying every smallish club like Bastia, and who have the power to actually relegate or actually deny promotion. I don't remember the DNCG actually relegating someone in June and just saying, okay, you got your safety on the pitch, but we're still going to relegate you because you owe such and such supplier or something a couple of millions. Troyes almost went down that road because they did the Saint-Germain to Monaco, so they were fine. Lens really dodged a bullet with it. The thing that happened last season was in Ligue 2, where Nîmes was supposed to be docked 8 points at the end of last season, but instead they got docked those 8 points at the beginning of this season, which means they started on -8, and they did a wonderful job of staying up, and they actually were, they were quite really good. Not to go down. So first of all, I do not see the DNCG relegating Bastia in June, because I'm sure they'll find a certain way. Why will they find a certain way? Is that Bastia owe 15 million. Of those 15 million, there's 3 million to suppliers, various suppliers. The article on Le Parisien or L'Equipe doesn't say who it is, but 12 million of those 15 millions is in taxes. And usually, what happened in those situations, I can actually say this because I do actually work in this area in this line of business, is that you can ask for your tax debt to be to pay in installments. So basically, those 12 million will be said, okay, we're going to pay you in such and such date, and basically the state will say, okay, because all they want to do is to get their money. I mean, companies don't go bust because they don't pay taxes in France. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any companies. They go bust because they don't make any money. So, for all those reasons, I do not think Bastion will go down. And I really hope not, because it's so terribly unfair. It's bad enough that the DNCG have the power to forbid, if you will, a club to go up, but that they have the actual power for a club to say, okay, you're dropping a division because your management of the club is not good enough. I think that's absolutely shocking. They got survival on the pitch, and they should stay in Liga, which I think they will.
Eric, what are your thoughts on the matter? If Bastia don't manage to pay those debts, do you think it will be right for the DNCG to relegate them to Ligue 2?
I know. I agree with Philip. I think that a points penalty makes a lot more sense. I think that this club, you know, were they to go down, I don't think it'd be a big deal. They're a veteran team and they've been there before. Most of them, they can come back up easily enough. Uh, particularly with the teams that are going to be in Ligue 1 early to next year. I think that there'll be a paucity of bigger teams in League 2 that they can come back up. But beyond that, it's tough to penalize players, who've no business doing this. Uh, in sporting terms, because of what's happened in some offices. And if this is the case, as Philip says, that it is taxes that, I'm sure a plan can be worked out. Surely the DNCG can see the importance of this team to the city of Bastia and to the island of Corsica. They've been sort of the Liga mainstay of the island. Gazelec and the other Ajaccio club have been in and out of Ligue 1 in recent past, but Bastia's sort of been the mainstay, if you will, even though they had been in Ligue 2 recently. And that it would be very important to keep the club there, perhaps with the points penalty. I'm not sure what Nimes' financial situation was in terms of what led to their points deduction, but something along those lines, and see what the team can do. It may end up in a relegation at the end of next season, but were that to be the case, Bastia have always shown a lot of character on the pitch, and I don't think it'd be any huge issue for them.
It's also very important for Corsican football, and you see all this mess that represents the DNCG, because usually when you have the relegated and the promoted, you can start planning the season ahead. And you've got the fixture list. You've got all the running costs of being in Ligue 1, not in Ligue 2. And this goes the same as down the lower leagues, because you've got a huge amount of difference of revenue, first of all, between Ligue 1 and Ligue 2, an even bigger one between Ligue 2 and National, because you have to have the infrastructure. You have to have the right stadium. You have to have your house cleaned up by all the authorities that don't really know who they are, but they do exist, and they do a pretty thorough inspection. It would be. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. We only know who is going to play in National, I would say, beginning of August, because nobody knows what the hell's going on, and the DNCG has no idea what's happening. I think one particular season National had 19 teams, because one of them could not play or did not want to. It was too expensive. It's just a mess. And this is why I'm sorry, but if you got relegated and promoted on the pitch, you just go, Then the next year you go bankrupt. You do a Le Mans or Grenoble or stuff like that, and then you come back. But it really shouldn't be that strict. That's fans for you.
No, and that's something that needs to be sorted out. But I think what might worry. Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, the thing that what worry Ligue 1 fans and Bastia fans especially is the likes of last season. I know it was obviously in a different country, but Elche in Spain, they were perfectly safe on the pitch, and yes, it was possibly a different financial statement. I'm not saying that both of them are in the same situation, but they were relegated because of their financial woes rather than what they could do on the pitch. But in a different side to this, with that news coming out, I know it's maybe strange to say, Philip, but might that incentivise some teams to finish third from bottom?
No. I just can't see it. You can't just gamble on some finances. I mean, it really has never happened in the history in recent, because I do know that back in the very, very old days, back when French football was actually being played in a professional manner, taking English football as role models. This was when northern football in northern France was much bigger than basically anywhere else, because of the British element to all that. I don't think it's happened since the early 90s or maybe the late 80s, and once again, I just don't see it. And if you ask any manager, if you ask there's a new manager at Lens, if you ask Duprat, if you ask the Gazette manager, I'd just say no. We must finish 17th, because I'm sure everyone's pretty certain that that's not going to happen. You don't just get some help from destiny. It has happened in National, though. It has happened, but for it to happen in Ligue 1 would be a first. And frankly, I don't think the clubs that finish at 18th would be. I mean, they'd be happy to keep being in Ligue 1, but I just don't see it. I just don't see these as a team to have that added incentive to say, hey, yeah, guess what? We finished 18th. Great. No.
We might just stay up.
Yeah, well, no, they have to wait. They'll have to wait June. Nothing will be decided before June anyway. So, might as well finish 17th.
Just to bookend this as well, you mentioned there, Philippe, earlier that there's been issues before with the likes of Troyes needing to sell Corentin-Jean, and Lens had a few issues when they come up.
Lens never should have been promoted, actually. It has been proved, and by very terrible finances. And I think it's unfair, and I think it's great that they got promoted. But usually when the DNCG says no, it's because there's a very valid reason. But sorry, go on.
My question would be to Eric: what needs to change within French football to stop this kind of thing from happening? Is it a mismanagement of clubs, or is it something a deeper issue of Ligue 1 money or overpayments? What needs to change?
What needs to change? I mean, the easy answer is that Ligue 1 has become quote unquote a selling league, and that I think a lot of these players, even with the money that the Premier League is giving players, is giving to these clubs for some of these players that are going abroad and other leagues too. I mean, we look at the likes of Daniel Vasco and Celta Vigo, for example. There's the fact that there's this constant turnover and churn means a lot of these players that are being sold, I feel, are being undervalued, and that the French clubs should perhaps be a little bit more firm in holding on to players and really wringing a bit more from the clubs that are after their other players, be it Spanish clubs or English clubs or Italian clubs or what have you. You look at some of the fees that are being paid for players that are really key, and it's good that you don't see clubs plummeting down the divisions. By and large, it's still a frustrating situation. I mean, look at the likes of Montpellier, for example, having to sell, the likes of Al Khattaoui and the wide player that they sold to Bologna or Genoa.
Belanda?
No, well, Belanda is a good example too. I mean, just the fees that these players are getting, that these clubs aren't getting, is really frustrating. And I feel that rather than having such a focus on youth and in the league, which is exciting and it's good to see these young players coming through, there's still a problem, I think, surrounding the valuation that are placed on these players, and that they're being held over a barrel. So I think and being forced to sell. So I think there needs to be more of an active conversation between the DNCG and clubs as regards the financial realities of being able to retain and sell players. Because if there's this constant churn of players, the league as a whole is unable to maintain a decent level of success in Europe. And we've seen that, for example, with the likes of Lyon being forced to sell all these players. Again, part of that was to build the Stade Lumière, but Lille in the same way. I mean, again, look at the turnover from that team that won the championship and was in the Champions League. I think Rio Mavuba is the only player left from that squad, and that was only 4 years ago. So that's the kind of things that I think there needs to be more realistic expectations upon the part of the DNCG, especially if they're clubs that are more traditionally powerful or bigger. There just needs to be a more open conversation and to have situations that maintain financial viability, but also at the same time allow the teams to operate in a way that makes them competitive. Throughout the season. And Anthony Mounier was the player I was thinking of, by the way.
Oh yes, it was. Yeah.
What I really find annoying is that it's not like all these players are going to great leagues. I mean, no offense to the Chinese leagues, the Qatari league, or what have you. But you've had some very good players making extremely strange choices, and I'm convinced that the selling club, when they see that kind of money, they say, okay, we don't really care about the development of the player. We just need the money. It doesn't. I mean, they don't. It's not like they care about the player's development, and on some level, why should they? Because he is not going to be at the club anymore. But I really do believe that the players are not advised very well to go in leagues that are inferior to Ligue 1, which is a shame because I think.
What are the players? It's not the players' motivation. If the club has very few sellable assets, and again, Montpellier is a great example of this. What are their choices? I mean, they bring in Boudebouz, and oh shoot, now they need to balance their books. So let's sell an important defender. Let's sell an important wide player. Again, Mounier isn't a world beater, but he was a really important player for Montpellier last season. And to be sold so close to the deadline to a middling Italian team, it shows it shows the pressures that the DNCG are putting on clubs, and I think that needs to be sorted a little bit more. That the fact that a club is, I mean, I don't know what he was sold for. It was $2 million maybe. It was really not a lot of money. I mean, he's a decent player, but the fact that relatively small amount of money is a make or break amount. But there should be some way that things can be ameliorated a little bit more in terms of balancing the books for these clubs to make things a little bit easier on them to build cohesive teams and to maintain a level of success.
Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really see Italy as being superior to Ligue 1 on a financial basis. I don't think
absolutely
the TV
not. I mean,
I don't think the players are much more paid than they are in France. So this choice is baffling, but you do get these players who really want this foreign experience. They really do want to go to England, to the English lower leagues, because for instance the second division pays better than most Ligue 1 clubs, etc., etc. So you get this kind of curiosity which you probably don't have in the Premiership, and which is quite good. But the exodus is just not going to stop if there's not a more flexible approach to how a football club is run, because now it's pretty much a company. It is a company.
Yeah, it's a very complicated matter, and I think Eric made a very, very good point that essentially cooperation is the way forward for anything like this, and hopefully. I know I'm maybe living in a dreamland, but that might be somewhere we head in the future. And I think you also made an excellent point about Mounier when I say Jonathan Kodjo signed for Bristol City for $2 million, and he signed for Genoa for $2 million. It shows you maybe the gulf of maybe sometimes they need to buckle down a little bit and command maybe that better fee if they can. But it's the world we live in, unfortunately. But with going from not a lot of money to a lot of money, we'll talk about Paris Saint-Germain, and they're set for an interesting summer as always. But it's really time to look at what form they might take next season. The club will be desperate to challenge for the Champions League, having fallen at the quarter-final stage for the past 2 seasons. So, Philip, what holes do they need to fill to make that dream a reality next season?
In terms of players, I'm not even sure they're going to be able to do much about it. I mean, they did get rid of Lavezzi. I think Thiago Motta should have a lesser role in the squad, not as important, and bring in someone like Pogba. That would be superb, although probably slightly unrealistic. In terms of players coming in, I would like to have to see Buffal sign for PSG. I think he's a real talent, and if he's taken on now, in 3 years he will be absolutely world class. If he's not there yet, because he is that goal he scored at Gazélec actually was phenomenal, and he is a phenomenal talent. Not all that sight on Ben the Ben Arfa rumours, which he did say he wasn't really a Powys man growing up, and there's also the Marseille connection. Like I said before, I wouldn't get rid of Blanc. I think that would be it would be a mistake having no one that has the patience of going season after season, winning the league and so much. In terms of strategy, I think it's important to say the following. I think PSG are putting immense pressure on themselves. I think QSI is really saying we have to win the Champions League, and if we don't, our season is a failure. I don't see any other European club saying that. I don't see Real Madrid saying it, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Juventus. The whole strategy is we're gonna do our best and try to win as many trophies as possible, which is what they are doing season in and season out. When I look at Juventus, their season has been not great. Started the season horrifically. They did up winning Serie A. I'm not quite sure what's happening with Coppa Italia. I don't know if they won it. And they got knocked out in the. Sorry?
They knocked out by Inter.
Oh. So yeah, that's not exactly good news. But and they got knocked out in the first knockout stage. But they said, all right, well okay, so. We lost in a c'est la vie kind of manner, and I just feel like PSG are making life almost difficult for themselves before other clubs, while other clubs should be doing it, and I think it's not the right manner to go on about it. I mean, Chelsea had the same spirit, shall we say, and they. Let's just say the Champions League win was not expected a couple of months before, and since then they haven't won all that much. So my biggest worry would not be are PSG going to win the Champions League one day? I think they are. I mean, if you stay 50 years and are in the quarterfinals, I mean, ultimately they will have some kind of luck. But what you do after that, I think the whole long-term solution is. That QSI, I'm afraid that they'll get bored once they win the Champions League. Say okay, we're out. I'm only half joking there, but yeah, I think having a more relaxed approach would help the whole place and the league. I think our media is very very harsh on PSG. Much harsher than the British, and probably as harsh as Marca and El País in Spain, where every single aspect of a player, a member of staff, everything is being scrutinized by the press, which must be hard. If you're a player, especially.
Eric, they weren't far away this season, and they were very impressive, especially in Ligue 1. But what are those little pieces they may need come the summer just to move them on to the next stage?
Sure, I think you have to look at this team as having two deficiencies heading into next season. As does look like Zlatan is out the door. One is, as Philip rightly said, defensive midfield. Thiago Motta had looked good earlier in the season, but I think he's become a little bit worn down, and I think he's 34 this year. I think that needs to be replaced. I think there's a couple players that spring immediately to mind, and I think could be had for a reasonable price. One is Lassana Diarra. I don't see him playing another season at Marseille, given their situation. But I think someone who is French. I mean, PSG has shown a willingness to go after French players as a way to sort of foster goodwill towards their local crowd. Not the team being a whole cavalcade of foreign players. The likes of Laban Kurzawa is a good example of that. They're continuing development of Adrien Rabiot, Blaise Matuidi. So I think Lassana Diarra could be a good option there. I think, despite being a Lyon fan, I think Maxime Gonalon is of the quality necessary to do that. I think he's a very assured presence in front of a back four. He's not going to be the same sort of dynamic player going forward as Diarra would be, but I think he would do a good job at sweeping things up and allowing the likes of Verratti, Rabiot, Pastore, and Matuidi to get forward, were the club to maintain this 4-3-3, which I think they should, as it fits most of the players. So a defensive midfielder, those are two good options. Another player that's been mentioned in the past, but I don't think is up to it, is Carvalho of Sporting Club de Portugal. But a player of that ilk, someone who has experience in the Champions League, again, Diarra and Gonalons both do in spades, and is willing to do a job for a team and not be a superstar. Along with that, in the midfield, keeping the likes of Rabiot and Pastore happy with game time. Blaise Matuidi's 29 this year. Probably can't, as we've shown, be over relied upon. And I think that with the number of games and the potential for injury for him and Verratti, Rabiot and Pastore should continue to get enough playing time. So that covers the midfield. Further forward, obviously, Ibrahimovic is on his way out. Cavani could be as well. They're going to need another center forward, or maybe two.
Is that confirmed, though?
Sorry?
Is that confirmed? If Zlatan is going?
It looks likely. It's not been confirmed, but
Right.
the website this morning had a thing that Laurent Blanc is quote unquote aware of Zlatan's wanting to leave. So I think that there's a number of intriguing options here. We've talked in the past about Romelu Lukaku. I think that his movement, his passing ability, and his aerial prowess make him a good fit. He's not as good of a free kick taker as Zlatan is, but I think that in terms of his qualities on the pitch, he offers a lot of the same things. And again, being a young player, he's still got plenty of time to develop. I think that he's shown this season in particular at Everton that he is able to take a team on his back. And with the presumptive wide players being the likes of Angel Di Maria and Lucas Moura, I think that he's ready to take a step up and lead this team forward. Another option, and perhaps a little bit more intriguing, Cristiano Ronaldo has been consistently linked with PSG. And I think at this point in his career, being 31 years old, it's perhaps time for him to transition to being in a center forward. I think that he's got players around him at PSG who are willing to be a supporting cast for him, and he doesn't quite have the movement that he used to have, but he's still a tremendous header of the ball, a tremendous goal scorer, has a great will to win, and has shown on multiple occasions, again, the second leg against Wolfsburg, for example, that he is still very much a big game player, and I think that it would really be for him as an individual, and we know his willingness to want to prove himself as an individual, for him to be the man and lead PSG to a Champions League title would be sort of the perfect capstone to his career. So the potential of bringing in Ronaldo and moving him to center forward, maybe perhaps with Cavani going the other way, or selling Cavani and using those funds towards Ronaldo, I think would make a lot of sense. As for the rest of the team, Maxwell is leaving. Luka Dean looks set to return from Roma, perhaps as cover in central defense. I'd like them to hold on to Marquinhos, but were they not able to do that, Presnel Kimpembe is continuing to develop, and I think that he should be afforded a little bit more playing time next season. I think they should keep Van der Veer as cover for Serge Aurier, and beyond that, I think this team can really be set up well. You've got a lot of really exciting players who are in the prime of their careers or entering the prime of their careers. I think Lucas Moura has been underused and underrated. And to give him more of a role on the left, and to make him a bit more of a focal point of the season, I think they should offload Cavani and use that money to invest in the likes of a striker and a defensive midfielder. I don't think they would get much of a fee for Mata if indeed he is contracted for another year. I'm a little fuzzy on that. But yeah, continuing the same system, just some slight tweaks to make the team a little bit younger. I think they've been badly undone by injuries and suspensions. Against Barcelona last year, against Manchester City this year, this team really isn't that far away from winning the Champions League. It's just been down to a bit of bad luck the past couple seasons on the whole.
I do want to add personally two maybe slightly more budgeted options, ironically from the Premier League, for those defensive midfield options. I mean, there's two players that come to mind that have played really well this season. One being a Frenchman in N'Golo Kante. Whether they could prize him from Leicester City is a question, but I think he's an excellent reader of the game, as shown by the ridiculous amount of interceptions he's made this season. But with the amount of injuries that PSG have had in the midfield this season, it's feasible that he could even play as a replacement for Matuidi should they need it, if he needs to play forward. He's a good passer of the ball, good distributor, so even in a deeper position, he's a good form of that. And obviously, being French is an extra plus. Another player I thought of is someone who's really impressed a lot of people this season is the Belgian Moussa Dembele at Tottenham. He's a very strong. I've enjoyed watching him ever since he was at Fulham. He's a very strong ox of a player. He likes to manipulate the ball. He's a good tackler. It really gives away possession very easily because he's very clever on the ball and very good at holding off the opposition. And I think that kind of player, although yes, they're not going to sell box office tickets like someone like a Cristiano Ronaldo might, but they might just be the right kind of player that PSG need at this moment in time. But we've mentioned some of the players that should be brought in. Who needs to go this summer, Philip?
Thiago Motta. Having Zlatan, and I wouldn't actually mind selling Zlatan and Cavani. That would make a lot of room on the wage bill and up front. Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. Yeah. Other than that, no, I don't see some crying underperformers, if you will. I think Di Maria has to, I didn't have the same rating as you did against Manchester City. I thought he was terrible, and actually, I don't think his second half of the season has been okay, but nothing like his first half of the season. But I think he needs to take the reins from open play. I think him and Pastore having the quality moments in those quality games will be the key. No, I don't really see past Thiago Motta, which I don't actually want him to leave. I just don't want him to start the big games. He can stay, I don't mind. And maybe Zlatan and Cavani, but it's really not that big a deal for the club. It's what you do with the players coming in. I mean, there is, to me, always has been a rather scarce amount of wingers at the club, which is probably the main problem to be addressed.
Finally, on this topic, Eric, I wanted to talk about. It's a crazy world at football, and it's weird to think that PSG might struggle to hold on to some of their players, but you never quite know, especially with the might of the likes of a Barcelona or Real Madrid. Who do they absolutely need to make sure they keep for next season?
Two players that I've seen being linked with other clubs that I think they need to keep are Javier Pastore. He was linked with Liverpool this morning, I saw. I think his versatility is tremendous. He has, a sublime ability with the ball at his feet. He's also willing to get the work in. He's not the most accomplished tackler, but he is someone who's willing to do a job in multiple positions. Will also offer a little bit of creative flair going forward. So his versatility and work rate, I think Pastore, and also Marquinhos. I mean, this player continues to impress me. He's fairly mistake-free. He's still only 21 years old. I'm not sure when his birthday is, but absolutely. I mean, this player could be the bedrock of their defense for the next 10 to 12 years, and to think that there's a possibility that he could go, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does not matter. If Barca offered Luis Suarez in a swap deal, maybe you think about that. But no, Marquinhos needs to be held on to as well. Other players I haven't really seen much in the way of rumors away. So, but those two I think they do need to keep, not only for their versatility, but for their willing to do a job and be team players, which I think is important on a team that it's always going to have its superstars. You need players who are willing to do the grunt work, as it were.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, and it's going to be very interesting this summer. I mean, to add to those, like you mentioned, Luca Dean coming back, having a solid season at Rome. He may want to go, but that might be an interesting situation. Alphonse Areola coming back might make it interesting in the goalkeeping department as well. But we shall see. We'll move on now to other things that might happen in that summer transfer window. And like every season before this one, a host of Ligue 1 stars have eyes on them from across Europe. So with that in mind, we're going to have a quick look at some of the stars of the season and their best potential landing places. So we'll go through them all, and we'll ask you both what you feel would be their best spot and a prediction of where you think they will be. We'll start with Marseille forward Michy Batshuayi. Philip, where do you think he will end up?
Liverpool.
Elaborate.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't see Manchester United buying another centre forward this season. That's basically me being asked a question on the dot, and I think it would be a good fit. It would be a good fit, and if he does leave. Which I think is not definite. I mean, if a new owner, new money, better players, much better cohesion, much better management, a bit of strategy thrown in. So it's more me actually hoping that he doesn't leave this summer, because I think a couple of more seasons in Ligue 1 will do him good, because he is a good quality Ligue 1 player. But if he does go now, I do believe Liverpool will be not far.
Eric, what do you think for Michy?
I see two potential destinations, but they're both reliant on other players leaving. Everton, if Lukaku goes, and Chelsea if Costa goes. I think that his particular brand of physicality and aerial ability makes him a good fit for both those teams. Costa is rumored to want to go back to Atletico if Atletico let go of Torres. That's something I could easily see happening. And, again, Everton are supposed to have more money for next season, but I can't really see them making a push for the Champions League. And Lukaku is absolutely of that quality and should be looking to go somewhere else. So were he to go, I think a step up to Everton would make a lot of sense for him, given that his abilities are not that dissimilar in terms of Lukaku's, albeit with a little bit less technique than his fellow Belgian.
Where would Torres go?
That's another good question.
Yeah.
But depending on I think that Michy Batshuayi, you make very good points that Liverpool's an interesting destination because they don't quite have that centre forward position completely nailed down, despite the players that they
do have Danny Ings.
which would be an interesting one to bring back as well.
Yeah.
And the Everton argument makes plenty of sense. Like you say, Lukaku possibly leaving. I have absolutely zero idea where he may end up. I wouldn't be surprised if, again, it's reliant on a player leaving, but especially if Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang leaves Dortmund, I can see that quite feasibly being the kind of club that he would thrive at, and a club that will be interested in his ability to lead the line with the players that he has around him, like Marco Reus, Henrik Mkhitaryan, those kind of players that will give him the chances that he needs. We'll move on to Alexandre Lacazette. He's been rumoured numerous times in the last couple of years of moving away. Philip, where do you think he'll end up?
Can I say PSG?
Of course you can.
Okay, well, PSG. Once again, I really don't not convinced 100% that he will leave. I think Fekir being back is a major plus for Aulas. I think Lyon have a very busy summer in front of them, and I think Aulas and Genesio can convince Lacazette to stay if they finish second, that is. But if they don't finish second, and even if they don't finish second, I think, my gut feeling is that he's going to stay, and if he leaves, it's PSG, and I don't really see him going abroad just yet.
It's a really interesting point of view, especially if I'm trying to be miracle powers of Aulas to convince him to stay, I think. But Eric, Where do you think is the best landing spot for him?
I see two places. I think Barcelona. I think that given his ability to play wide as well as centrally, he makes the perfect Alexis Sanchez / Pedro fourth man, if you will, able to play any of those three positions. Should Luis Enrique want to rotate the squad. I also think that for me, Alexander Lacazette's always been the archetypal Jurgen Klopp player. I think that he'd do fantastically well leading the line at Liverpool. Much like we see Aubameyang doing this season. Again, it's under Thomas Tuchel, but it's a team that's been built by Klopp. He's got that mix of ability in terms of pace, heading the ball, deft touch with both feet. I think that he'd really fit in well with Liverpool. He's got, minus his back issues earlier in the season, a fairly strong fitness record as well, which is something that the likes of Ings and Daniel Sturridge don't have. And he is more mobile, unlike the likes of a Christian Benteke, who's also had his own injury issues, to be frank.
I'd much rather the later option. To me, Barcelona is really not a place. I know Lacazette can play on the wing, but to me, Barcelona is not a place for a number 9, which I still think Lacazette is ultimately.
We'll very quickly move on to the last two names I've got on the list. You mentioned Sofiane Boufal already, Philip. You think PSG is probably the best landing spot for him. So I will ask Eric, who do you think Sofiane Boufal should go to?
I think he should stay. I think his maturity issues this season are too much for a club at the top level to take a chance on him. I think he should have another full season in Ligue 1, play, as it looks like, in Europe with Lille, and just prove himself a little bit more. I don't think he's ready to take that step up personally. I think he's a wonderfully talented player with the ball at his feet, but I think he needs to prove himself on an emotional level to be a sound investment for a club at a higher level.
Philip, we'll finish on the final one, and that's Hatem Ben Arfa, who's been linked here, there, and everywhere because of his exploits at Nice. Where do you think he should end up?
I have no idea. Again, I just I don't know. I mean, I still ask Premiership fans, Newcastle fans as well. Would you take him back? And I said, yeah, he was probably one of the most talented players we've ever had. Well, not ever, but very, very talented. So I mean, I doubt he'd go back to Newcastle. And I don't know. There's this thing. I mean, I don't see him going back to England. And apart from that, I don't see him. I hope he won't go to a club like in some I'm going to say little club in La Liga. La Liga is a perfectly good league. I hope he won't do an Antonio Muñoz either. And if you guys see him in the Premiership, yeah, but I don't, basically. So I have no idea. I really have no idea. And yeah, I actually, I'm going to keep being very, very boring and dull there, and think he's probably going to stay for another season.
Eric?
So sorry, investors.
Yeah, I actually think that Spain would be a good fit for him. Celta Vigo, if they lose Nolito, will be wanting a replacement for him. A team like Villarreal can potentially offer Champions League football, and Villarreal are a fantastic team defensively, but could frankly use a little bit of a spark going forward. I think that Ben Arfa would be great in that regard. Yeah, maybe, or maybe, yeah, one of those teams. Sorry, something like that. A team that is in need of a fluid, creative attacking presence and can offer European football. It looks like Nice will get into the Europa League, but again, I think Ben Arfa is better than that, and especially at this point in his career, being 29 in the summer, he needs to look at being, in the Champions League while he still has that talent.
You see, I see. If it's going to be Spain, because I think more Spain than England. If it's going to be Spain, I'm thinking more so clubs like Villarreal, Seville, Valencia, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sevilla already have enough wingers. I think that Villarreal makes the most sense out of teams that are going to be in the Champions League next year.
They've got a massive French contingent, though.
It's an
couldn't make
interesting
room for
thing.
him. But I mean, yeah.
I will add one last curveball that I think he might go to, and that's staying in Liga and it would go against their signing policy, but I think it would be a great idea, especially if they lose some of their players again in the summer. And I think Monaco would be a really good landing spot. He would be possibly Champions League football on a regular basis. If they lose players like Bernardo Silva and such, he would be an ideal replacement because of his current form. And you've seen the effect he's had on the young players at Nice this season. I mean, look at the form of Coziello and Alisson Player. They look completely different players. They try different things because he's on the field showing them what they can do. And I think he would be a superb signing for a club that wants to build a club around getting those young players and making them grow. That would be, I think, would be a really interesting signing. They must have a look at him, I think, in the summer. But we've already gone over time, so that's all we have for this week. My thanks to Eric and Philip, as always, and to everyone listening at home. We shall see you at the same time next week. A bientôt, and goodbye.